Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Tonight we head to the Wisconsin Dells, and it's where a World War I veteran who served in the Army Air Corps of Engineers then came to own what was known as the Elkhart Sand and Gravel Company. And he'd sell 1,750 shares, all priced at $100 a piece to local sports car enthusiasts, all to finance 520 acres of land with its 4 miles of pavement and its 14 turns, a place where drivers could take its iconic kink flat out, but never, ever feel comfortable doing it. Welcome, everyone, to the park that Cliff Tufte built, the National Park of Speed, Road America, for season number 9 of the Ray Esports Racing League, presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Spec Racer Sports, Common Gear, and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Jack Ritchie in the commentary booth, and Lee Thompson, bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, first off, welcome. We've got 4 different classes here in the Ray Esports Racing League. There's Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata, and then as you can see on track right now, we have 2 touring car classes. One, our Touring 4 class, made up of the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars, and then the Touring 3 class, made up of the Toyota GR86 Cup cars. And each class is going to race 6 times over the course of our 9-week season. And this is week number 7, and we have 2 20-minute sprint races on tap for you tonight. First up, going to be the touring cars, the Touring 3 and Touring 4 cars, followed later on this evening by Spec Racer 4. All of them racing their 5th race of the season at this challenging high-speed track. And if you're looking for some Spec Miata action, that MX-5 Global Cup car action, rest assured they'll be joining us next week when we head to Austin, Texas, and the Circuit of the Americas. So good evening, Jack, and welcome to the National Park of Speed.
Hey, Greg, how are you tonight? We have a couple races on tap. I think these races should be really exciting tonight. We have a really cool road course here in Road Atlanta, or Road America. And, I mean, you mentioned how it was 4 miles, and it doesn't have the elevation change of like a Sonoma or something like that, but it is so easy to overdrive this track. Yes. I mean, that's probably the detriment of all these drivers is there's grass everywhere, there's pavement in some places, but if you overdrive some of these corners just a smidge, like turn 1, you have a lot to gain back, and it's going to be tough for these guys tonight, I think.
It definitely is, Jack, and this is a course, you know, that much like some of the smaller, tighter courses, still rewards smoothness, but it also rewards momentum. When I first raced here back in 2010, I looked at this as being a track that had 4 very long straights tied together by some 90-degree turns, and it looks very simple, very simplistic, but in actuality, it is really very difficult. There are some undulations and changes in the pavement, and for example, as we sit on board right now with Joaquin Effingers, as he comes down the marine sweep towards turn number 5, and to be able to get the braking done at the end of this very long straight and get the car rotated when the track is falling away from you, and even jumping a little bit off camber is always very difficult. Coming up here underneath the Corvette bridge at turn 6, as you have to get braking done just as the track is flattening out after coming under the bridge, it's very difficult, and we can see where this Jetta is definitely having some problems. Now, Jack, this is the point in the evening where I would say, hey, let's turn things over to Morgan Burkhardt, and he's going to give you tonight's track guide of Road America. But unfortunately, Morgan is, well, fortunately for him, he's on a bit of a vacation this week, and we don't have a track guide from him. So, you know, you're just going to have to take our words on it, on how difficult this track is here. And definitely, you know, you do have some elevation changes as we watch these drivers coming up the Road America straight out of the final corner, going to the finish line. And, you know, you can have a 2 or 3 car length advantage, Jack, coming out of the final corner out of turn 14. And it won't be enough to save you, as cars can just draft and slingshot right by you going up that tall hill.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the things tonight that we're going to see quite a bit, is how strong the draft is. I mean, as you just said, coming out of that last corner, especially if you have a bad last corner and don't have the momentum coming out of that corner, somebody's going to be able to set you up fairly easily. So I'm not really sure, just like at Motosports last week, if you want to be the leader on the last lap coming to the line. I mean, probably do, and you could probably defend it a little bit, but there's going to be times where you can't defend it, and I mean, you're just at the mercy of everybody else behind you with the draft. So
yeah, well, you know, but you know, you look at Motosport, and there was one big passing opportunity at Motosport, and that was going into those S's at turns 8, 9, and 10 at the end of the lap, and we see that so often at so many different tracks. But at Road America, you have not only coming out of turn 14 and going up the hill to the finish line, you've got coming out of turn 3, going down the marine sweep towards turn number 5, that downhill left-hander, as we're on board with Corey Heffron right now, coming underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge along that marine sweep, and you can see just how long the straightaway is. Then we've got of course, going through the carousel and to the Kettle Bottoms, that's coming out of the kink, and then heading over towards Canada Corner, another long straightaway with a very heavy braking turn at the end of it, and an opportunity to try to make passes. There are so many opportunities to draft pass or try to outbrake people in the corners, where it won't necessarily hurt you if you go side by side through a corner. Where it actually hurts you is when you're battling it out side by side on some of these long straightaways. So we'll definitely track that over the course of the night. And so, as we mentioned, this is our first race of the evening, our first group of the evening, and we have our touring cars on track. They are currently 10 minutes into a 15-minute qualifying session that will set the grid for tonight's race. And currently, your provisional pole sitter in the Touring 3 class in the Toyotas is Beans Forster, driver of that yellow and blue number 231 machine. And Beans was our winner last week at Motosport, taking the win over Andrew Wozencroft, with Caleb Pocock and Wayne Buttermore finishing back second, third, fourth, and Corey Heffron, who I think we are seeing in the Jetta tonight, was our 5th racer in those Toyotas. Let's quickly here, Jack, take a look at the point standings as they currently are. Again, after 4 races complete this season in the Touring 3 class, Miles Crabb is currently your points leader with 74 points. Then Beans Forster, again looking to repeat tonight, currently 2nd in the points, tied with Caleb Pocock. Both drivers are at 70 points. And then 4th in the championship is Wayne Buttermore with 66 points. And then a pretty big gap back to John Wilson and Andrew Wozencroft. Now, if we take a look over and in qualifying, it is Beans Forster and then Crab and then Yoshikawa currently in that Touring 3 class. If we move over to the Touring 4 class, our Volkswagen Jettas, currently our fastest driver on track is Skip Brock Jr. with Giancarlo Schooler, second fastest, and currently about 4/10 separating those drivers. Then Jacob Schilling and Andrew Wozencroft. Wozencroft, again, we saw him in the Toyota a couple weeks ago, or last week, pardon me. Tonight he's in the Jettas, trying to gather points in both series here. And last week at Motosport, Morgan Burkhardt took the win over Giancarlo Schooler, his teammate. Margin of victory, 109 thousandths of a second. Let's call it a tenth. Skip Brock Jr. was our third place finisher, took the bronze, and again, he is your provisional pole sitter in class tonight. Then Megan Overstreet and Michael Snow, your top five. And as you take a look there, the point standings, Morgan Burkhardt, who is not going to be here tonight to try and improve upon that that advantage that he has over Megan Overstreet. He's got 75 points. That's where he's going to stand for at least another week. Megan Overstreet with 70 in second position with Michael Snow, and then Seth Spolman and Derek Marcos rounding out your top five in the championship. And you can see there, I believe we've got actually more than 18 drivers that have put in and received points so far this season. The Jetta is definitely one of our most highly, probably is our most highly subscribed classes here, Jack, and a lot of that has to do with that sim to track initiative from our sponsor, Paddock Motorsports, that they're giving away 2 arrive and drive packages, one to a licensed competition holder or competition license holder, and one to a driver who doesn't have a competition license. These are real life rides for the competition license holders to take part in a race in what is known as a B-Spec Mini Cooper, and for our non-license holders, for them to go to a competition licensing school and become a racer in real life. Great package that Grass Paddock is offering up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, the Jettas have been the really popular series, and with Megan Overstreet being in the race tonight and looks like she's pretty quick, she has a really good opportunity to take over the points lead too. So it could be a really big night for her. She's only 5 points back, and with the championship leader not racing tonight, it's a really good night to capitalize. So hopefully she's able to do that.
Exactly, and you know, Skip Brock Jr. currently sitting, I think, 16th in the points at 25 points. So even if he comes away with a win tonight in the Jettas in the Touring 4 class, it may help him somewhat in the championship standings, but it certainly is not going to impede Megan Overstreet's ability to get to the top of the championship standings here after 5 of 6 rounds.
It also seems like we have a few more Toyotas tonight than we have had the last few weeks too. I think we've only had 4 or 5 the last couple of races, and tonight I think we have 8 total. So that could be a little bit of a game changer for that series tonight as well.
Yeah, indeed. We've got Nagase Yoshikawa, who's going to be racing tonight in the Toyotas. Was not here last week at, actually he was here at Sonoma. Did I say Sonoma? Oh my gosh, where am I all of a sudden? Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Mosport, not Sonoma. I think I was going off of you were talking about elevation changes earlier. And we also have Ethan O-Ring running tonight, as well as Mark Sherman, who was not with us last week at Mosport. So nice little field. Now we're still waiting to see. Sherman and O-Ring have not managed to put in qualifying times as of yet, and the checkered flag is already out. They may find themselves starting at the rear of the grid.
Oh man,
what
a spill.
That was a heck of a hit from Nagase Yoshikawa at the end of the session there, but again, that kind of shows how difficult things can be here at Road America. As we're on board now watching Jacob Schilling, and you see another racer just pass right on by, going up the hill, that got a great run. And I think that was Ethan O-Ring in the 62 machine who actually put in a time. No, there's Ethan in his Toyota that put in a time and moved up to 5th in the Toyotas. We'll get the number of the driver that went went by Schilling on the front street. It might have actually been, I think it might have actually been Wayne Buttermore in the 73 machine. All right, but time is running down here. We have racers on their very last flying laps. Beans Forster, currently your provisional pole sitter in the Toyotas, with Miles Crabb, as you can see there, 36 hundredths of a second back. Then Nagase Yoshikawa, third fastest, then Caleb Pocock. And in the Jettas, Skip Brock Jr., your fastest driver, with a just about a 3/10 advantage over Megan Overstreet. Giancarlo Schooler, who finished second last week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Third fastest tonight, Jacob Schilling, who we saw rolling up the hill there in that 85 machine. Currently fourth fastest with Mike Snow in the 077 fifth. And we'll see here if the 62 machine, and we're looking at Mark Sherman. Again, Sherman did not get a time in qualifying. He only, I think, attempted a flying, actually, I think this is his first flying lap, and he's already got an off track, I believe. So even this lap may not count, but we'll see here as he comes down under braking in the Canada corner. That is, pardon me, turn 12 here as he comes up the Bill Mitchell bend and setting up for the final corner, turn 14. We'll see if that number 18 machine, when it crosses the line, if it will set a lap time.
It looks like he got through that last segment really well, so like you said, I guess we'll see if it counts for him, but at least it looked like he had a really nice clean lap, other than potentially that off track that we didn't get to see.
And let's see, as he crosses the line, does he set a time? No, indeed he does not. So looks like Mark Sherman, he's going to be relegated to the back of the pack in the Toyotas in the Touring 3 class. So we've got qualifying finishing up. Got a few drivers still on track at the moment, but we'll have that starting grid for you here in just a moment. From the National Park Speed Road America, and so we've got a few more events left on the schedule. I think I mentioned earlier, Jack, that our next event is going to be at the Circuit of the Americas next week, June 27th, next Tuesday night. We're going to be taking the following week off for the 4th of July holidays, and then we'll be back with our final race of the regular season. That's going to be Tuesday night, July 11th. At Laguna Seca, and then just a week after that, it's going to be our big winner-take-all runoff. So looks like we've got our drivers starting to grid up, and Jack, why you run down the Toyotas?
Alrighty, in row 1 we have Beans Forrester on the pole. Starting second we have Miles Crabb. Starting third we have Nagase Yoshikawa, and starting fourth Caleb Pocock. Starting fifth, Corey Heffron. I think he might be one to watch tonight. And Ethan O-Ring starting sixth. He will be as well. Starting seventh, we have Andrew Wozencroft, and starting eighth, we have Wayne Buttermore. And rounding out the field is Mark Sherman, starting P9. I think this field is going to be one to watch tonight for sure.
All right, so let's take a look at the Jettas, where we've got Skip Brock Jr. on the pole with a qualifying time of 2:35.896. Megan Overstreet going to start just to his right, or probably to his left. Then we've got Giancarlo Schooler. He's going to start third in the 111 machine, with Jacob Schilling starting in fourth. Mike Snow and Jim Brewster, they're going to make up row number 3, with Wan Chi Lin starting 7th and Derek Marcos 8th in row number 4. Then we've got Justin Huffman and Joaquin Effinger. They make up row number 5, starting 9th and 10th, with Gary Winters and Trenton Kramer starting 11th and 12th. And that is going to round out your 12-car Volkswagen Jetta Touring 4 field, and looks like Mark Sherman will be joining the pack and starting again from the back of the pack. As Jack, we've got the longest pace lap in road racing and iRacing history starting right now, but I'm happy that we are, because well, we've got some time to talk about our 2 different sponsors for tonight's race. Let's start off with Grass Paddock Motorsports. We were talking earlier about the Sim to Track program. Well, Grass Paddock Motorsports provides Mini Cooper race car rentals, trackside support, and coaching at tracks all over the eastern half of the country. GPM provides podium-capable rentals for B-Spec the fastest growing class of racing in the Sports Car Club of America for 3 years running, and it's currently the 4th largest class overall. Grass Paddock has a unique approach where their race cars are located near the track you want to race at instead of being in a central location, and that way you can avoid the large towing fees. Come join us at Grass Paddock Motorsports, where Grass Paddock, it's not about our location, but about our attitude. For more information, visit www.grasspaddock.com. And as our pace car is bringing the Toyotas, the Touring 3 class, down towards turn 5, down that moraine sweep, let's talk about their sponsor for tonight's race, and that is the Common Gear, who is your single source for securely digitizing and storing automotive maintenance records. From photos of maintenance or restoration work to scans of receipts, users can easily catalog every piece of a car's story with the Common Gear. Digitize or scan and back up securely in one location. Documenting your diagnostic and repair processes is as important as the work itself. And with the Common Gear, you can keep track of the steps you take, the parts and experts you use, all the aspects of your car's history. Don't risk losing value in your investment due to lost or incomplete service and repair records. So for more information about the Common Gear, visit them at www.thecommongear.com or find them on Instagram at _Common Gear. And there we go, Jack. We've only got about 6 more minutes of this pace lap to go. Just kidding. Here as the pace car now starting to bring the field through this long sweeping turn that drops off camber on exit, the carousel curve, and this is so deceiving how difficult this corner is, Jack, here, that you want to come in slow and just continue to increase your speed and work up, but it falls off at the very end, and it's not uncommon to see drivers just understeer right off the pavement, right into the grass, drivers left, and then they're in a world of hurt because they've got no speed going to the kink. Yeah,
it's one of those deceptive corners for sure, and it's one of those corners where you think you can get on the throttle a lot earlier in the corner than you really can, and it catches a lot of drivers out, like you said. And it's tough because, like, once you get off right there, I mean, it's kind of easy to recover and get back on, but then, like you said, you lose all your momentum going into the really fast right-hander that you have right after it, and then it sets up for these few corners too, which can be hard as well. Every corner on this track, I think, is hard in its own way, and it's all different, so it takes a lot to learn at this track, but once you learn it, I feel like it's it's pretty easy after you learn it, but learning it, it's almost like the Nordschleife, just, you know, 6 times smaller.
It's a great, and hard to believe that a 4-mile long track, one of the longest in North America, is short compared, obviously, to the Nordschleife. But, you know, it's one of those tracks where you have to continue and maintain your momentum through those corners, because, you know, there's always a long straightaway that you need to have maximum speed for. As the pace car is on the pit lane, our Touring 3 drivers, they are coming up the hill. Beans Forster to the inside, and the yellow and blue 231 is your pole sitter. Miles Crabb to his left, and the green flag is in the air, and now we are racing now here at Road America, the National Park of Speed. Nagase Yoshikawa in that purple and black number 998 takes a quick look to the inside as the Jettas now get the green flag, and they are 3 wide up at the front. Skip Brock Jr., the pole sitter, sitting center track with Giancarlo Schooler and Megan Overstreet alongside, and Jacob Schilling getting a great run. But there's the 111 car jumping into the lead just behind the Toyotas, where Beans Forster now has taken the point. He's got Miles Crabb, Nagase Yoshikawa, and Ethan O-Ring back behind. O-Ring made up 2 positions on that start. Good move there for the 62 machine, who now drafts on past Nagase Yoshikawa as well. We can see the inside of that machine. Yoshikawa, he's defending to the inside, and he's got O-Ring's blue and white number 62 directly alongside as they come down into turn 5 for the very first time.
Yeah, and Giancarlo Schooler made a really aggressive move to make it 3 wide and take the lead on that first lap. I mean, I don't think I've really seen him race these cars too much, so I wonder if he's not super familiar with them, but he's like, I want to get clean air and try to get out in front of these guys and see what happens.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where I know he did race it last week at CTMP, and I think we saw him towards the beginning of the season at Road Atlanta, but has not been in the car every week, and I think he's put some times in Toyota, as well as our 2 fields now starting to to get in line here. Everybody all strung up, and now it's starting to look like, instead of two different packs and two different classes, the Jettas are starting to come up towards the back of these Toyotas. And Jack, this is one of the things that I was maybe a little concerned with here coming to Road America, is because these Jettas, although they don't have the ultimate cornering speed that the Toyotas have, and they may be real silent doing it, but they are as fast as the Toyotas in a straight line. So it's something that we will definitely have to watch here. Matter of fact, the Jettas were up somewhere north of 110 miles an hour. All right, looks like we've got a car off. And I think it was Wanchi. It was a Wanchi Lin that in the black number 98 machine.
No, Beans went off in the lead and gathered it up.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
He gathered it up and was able to keep the lead. It was a really rough spot to be losing it and getting it off in the grass too, but luckily for him, everybody gave him some space and he was able to get back on track. As we see these two bump drafting to try to catch the Toyotas, yeah, as you were saying, I think that they're going to catch them just because of all the long straightaways. Even their cornering speed being off, I don't think it's going to affect it too much. So it could get a little hectic in the mid-pack for the Toyotas for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing that the Toyotas they are almost 10 miles an hour slower in the straightaways than the Jettas are. And yeah, certainly when you've got, for example, Skip Brock Jr. pushing Giancarlo Schooler along, and then we also saw Megan Overstreet giving the bump draft to Jacob Schilling. They are definitely going to close things down, and you can see they're starting to come up on the back of the Toyotas right now, just as the Toyotas are actually starting to spread out. And now side by side coming down into turn number 5, taking a look to the inside of Miles Crabb is Ethan O-Ring, who started in 6th position tonight. He now moves up into 2nd position in that blue and white number 62 in the Toyotas. In the Jettas, we're seeing some movement here towards the back of the field as well. But for the moment, it is still Skip Brock Jr. and Giancarlo Schooler there at the front of the field as they came out of turn 7. All right, let's take a look and see exactly what happened on that last lap with Beans Forster as they came down into Canada corner. And he appears fine there. He runs wide on exit though. And you know, it's one of those things, Jack. You know, you try and square up for the entry to Canada corner, but a lot of times you don't get all your braking done, and it's key to carry as much speed as possible. If you turn in just a little early, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, and sometimes on these slower cars in iRacing too, like the steering gets a little wonky if you don't do exactly what the car wants. As these two are battling really hard, and oh my goodness, Crabb got ran off the track, but was able to gather it back up as well. But what I was saying, you know, with these slower cars, oh my goodness.
Oh, and contact, and those are our 2 leaders in the Jettas in the Touring 4 class, as we have Giancarlo Schooler getting together with Skip Brock Jr. coming out of the kink, heading down the Kettle Bottoms to Canada corner, and that is going to move the 111 machine all the way to the back of the pack. It's going to elevate Skip Brock Jr. up to the lead in the Jettas.
Yeah, they did not want me to get my point across, as we saw some crazy battles right there coming into Canada corner.
All right, tell you what, let's roll back and watch the run as they came through the kink and start to make the run down the Canada corner. We're on board with Giancarlo Schooler, and there's Skip Brock Jr. And Jack, it looks like maybe Skip Brock thought he had clearance on the 111 car and tried to come over to open up his braking.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I don't really think that he would just knock him off the track intentionally. These guys race together too much, so it's just maybe a mishap, mislapse of judgment, and Giancarlo ended up, unfortunately, catching the bad end of that one.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, and we saw earlier, just ahead of him on the last lap, Miles Crabb and Ethan O-Ring, when Crabb got a great run out of the kink and O-Ring just came right over and ran him to the grass. And now we see here going into turn 5, Miles Crabb and Caleb Pocock in the 88 machine. And Pocock, you know, and that's something that we see a lot of drivers. Oh! Well, that's something else we see a lot of drivers do over at turn 6 up the hill, as Pocock spins the car around underneath the Corvette bridge.
And he's able to gather it back up to the little 360 and kept on going, so he's still in contention for a good finish here, but him and Yoshikawa were battling pretty hard right there for P4.
Yeah, they were, and you know, and the deal with Pocock is he came down into turn 5, and a lot of drivers will do this is they'll move to the right of that curbing on the entry curbing, drivers right before you turn in at turn 5 to try and open up the corner as much as possible. And with these Jettas, where they don't like to rotate that much, I mean, it's certainly a way to go about it, but it just looked like he also ran way too deep into the braking zone, that he was kind of on the back foot by the time he actually got the car rotated around and started going up to turn 6.
Yeah, and as we were watching that, it looks like Megan Overstreet has taken the lead in the Jettas as well, and Skip Brock has fallen back to 4th. So I'm not sure if he like ran off or something, but he has dropped 3 positions here in this last lap.
Yeah, and you can see the bright yellow sticking out there right behind the green 077 machine of Michael Snow. So move Snow now up into 3rd place. And again, yeah, Overstreet is your leader, and she's your championship leader. Well, she was running 2nd in the championship coming into tonight, but Overstreet your leader tonight. Jacob Schilling running in 2nd in the yellow and black number 85, and then Michael Snow. As we watch this fight coming up the Road America straight side by side, it's Nagase Yoshikawa and Andrew Wozencroft, and Andrew Wozencroft takes the position. He's going to shuffle. Actually, I'm sorry, that wasn't Yoshikawa, that was Heffron, I believe, and Heffron got shuffled back to 6th position.
Yeah, that battle for 5th place is getting intense, as the battle for the lead back here in the Jettas is also getting intense. We have 5 drivers within a second of each other. I think this has been one of the closer battles that I've seen in the Jettas this season, so with Giancarlo Schooler out, he would probably have been the favorite. There's not really a favorite in this class anymore, I would say.
No, I think it's going to be very difficult. And, you know, again, with Overstreet currently running 2nd in the championship, you know, which before last season, she hadn't even turned a wheel in these Jettas, but she's definitely starting to come to grips with it, as we now have jumping down to the inside, trying to make the move on Jacob Schilling is Michael Snow in the 077 machine, and he's going to be side by side coming up into turn 6 underneath the Corvette bridge. He has position going into turn 6, and look at Skip Brock Jr. trying to shove his car underneath Schilling as well and make up a position.
Yeah, oh, he's made some more contact with Schilling right there. Man, Skip is being really aggressive tonight. He must see his opportunity to get a podium or a victory here, and he's really going for it.
And maybe somebody needs to re-etch on his mirror that objects are closer than they appear. As we see off in the grass there, Wayne Buttermore coming out of turn 8, going into the carousel. Buttermore's Toyota, the green Toyota, the 73 machine, off in the grass. As Skip Brock Jr. Looks to finally complete that pass on Michael Snow, going into the kink as the battle for 2nd now in the Toyotas comes through Canada corner, as Beans Forster starting to open up his advantage over the rest of the Touring 3 field.
Yeah, Beans is happy to see these two battling, because, I mean, that gap's went from about a second and a half to 4 seconds, so he is happy that they're battling. As these guys back here, I don't think they know who wants to take 2nd place, but Megan is also the other leader that's really happy, because now her lead has grown to over 2 seconds here. So I was kind of watching her a little bit, and she was overdriving some of the corners as the leader, because maybe they were putting a lot of pressure. You know, she don't want to get hit in the back or whatever, because it looks like these guys are hitting each other left and right.
Yes.
But now that she has that gap, she really doesn't have the pressure on her like these 5 or 6 do for 2nd through 7th.
Yeah, exactly. She has definitely got some running room now, as we're just about halfway through this 20-minute sprint race, and we saw where Jacob Schilling and Wan Chi Lin got together, but you also saw the typical front drive recovery when you get tapped and the rear end starts to go around, and that's just to mat the throttle and point the car where you want it to go. You know, those rear wheels, they don't really do much of anything except keep the gas tank off the ground. And you just want to steer the car out of the corners. But we see there where Snow has gotten back around Skip Brock Jr. for 2nd in the Jettas, and back to this battle now is no longer a 2-car battle for 2nd. It is a 3-car battle with Miles Crabb. He's in the red and black number 131. We've got Nathan O-Ring in the blue and white number 62. And then Nagase Yoshikawa in that black and purple number 98 machine is part of this little fight as well, as they make the run out of 7 down the hurry downs into turn 8.
Oh, and looks like we have a little bit of contact right there between Crab and O-Ring again. I was going to say, I don't think Miles Crab is going to forget that, you know, O-Ring was kind of racing him pretty rough earlier. And
yeah, exactly. And we saw there where O-Ring, and he was flashing the lights to let Crab know to just go, that he kind of held back, and, you know, the gentlemanly thing to let Crab go and continue on. But as they did, Nagase Yoshikawa, he wasn't part of that incident at all. He was just following it through, and he now moves up in the second in the Toyotas as we jump back over to the Jettas. And the last time we checked in, Megan Overstreet had about a 15 to 20 car length advantage on the rest of this Touring 4 field. Now she's running in second, and look who is your new leader here, Jack. It's Skip Brock Jr., who was jumped up from, I think, 5th position now to retake the lead.
Yeah, that was a pretty eventful lap that we had there, because we cut back to the Jettas here, and it looked like Megan had ran off the street a little bit as well. So now she's back in P2, and Skip, who's been aggressive all night, I don't think he's going to let P1 go that easily, so it's going to be interesting to see how hard he defends.
And this is just absolutely amazing watching these Jetta battles here as they're side-by-side, 2x2 through corners, and mere millimeters apart, in some cases 3 by 1, 3 by 3. I mean, just such tight, close racing. And those Jettas, they're really built like tanks. They can take a lot of abuse. And as we've seen already, some of these drivers are definitely dishing it out, as they've just completed their 6th flying lap, and now working lap number, probably they completed their 5th, now working lap number 6. Oh, and Overstreet wide through turn 1, and we saw the rear end step out there, Jack. And you know, we were talking about how you can be affected if you go into turn 1. Turn 1 is one of the fastest corners here on the track, but it can certainly bite you if you go in at too high a rate of speed, or if you don't get your braking done, your trail braking done correctly.
I think there was actually some contact. She got tapped and kind of went around there. We'll have to maybe see a replay on that one, but her night has went from bad to worse, unfortunately, as she's back to P8, as these guys up here are still battling for P2 in the Toyotas. Oh my goodness, Miles Crab has got it again.
And you know, it's almost as if we rewound a lap, because we're back to where Miles Crab is sitting up in 2nd position with Ethan O-Ring, and then Nagase Yoshikawa is trailing them, whereas just a lap ago, as they came underneath the Speedville Bridge and into the carousel, Yoshikawa was able to get by their previous incident, and it opened up almost a 15 car length advantage.
Yeah, and I think Crab and O-Ring have the pace on Yoshikawa, but they're battling so hard, it's kind of keeping him in the battle for P2. Yeah. So if they get it all sorted out, I think that they can pull away from him. But if they keep battling as hard as they have been and making more and more contact, then who knows who's going to end up finishing 2nd, because I'm not sure if they're going to be able to catch Beans. He is gone. Yeah,
he's now opened up almost a 7.5 second advantage over the rest of these drivers here in the Touring 3 classes. We now have just about 5 minutes remaining, a little bit less than 5 minutes in this 20-minute sprint race here, round, I don't want to call it round, but week number 7 of the Esports Racing League. As we watch now, this is the battle for 5th. We've got Caleb Pocock, who moves over driver's right to try to break the draft. He is now ahead of both Andrew Wozencroft, who did not get a great run out of turn 14, and then Corey Heffron in that black number 52 machine, who was able to draft by the 80. And then he tries to break the draft going down into turn 1.
Yeah, these guys are battling really hard for P5. As we have another battle for the lead back here in the Jettas. It looks like Snow is challenging Skip Brock down into turn 1. I think he's going to be able to clear him pretty easily. He overdrove it. He overdrove turn 1, and oh my goodness, and they're going to go right back to battling again.
Do it all over again. Yeah, as Snow was very deep on the brakes from the inside. It just could not get that car rotated, and Skip Brock Jr. takes advantage. and moves back to the lead as they come out of turn 3 onto the Marine sweep. And now Michael Snow, he's going to have to hold off the long line of Jettas behind him, and he's got Jim Brewster and Jacob Schilling directly behind.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the leaderboard, and I see Megan Overstreet's in 8th, but she's not even 2 seconds back, so I wouldn't count her out of it yet. I don't think I would count anybody in that top 8 out of this thing, because anything can happen as we have contact everywhere back here.
Ooh, and that is Wan Chi Lin gets tagged, or probably does the tagging in the gray number 30 machine. Jacob Schilling in the number 85 machine got knocked off course. I think Derek Marcos was involved there, got knocked through turn 5 as well in the 66 machine. So big moves there. And as soon as we finish talking about Overstreet in 8th position, Jack, she's now up to 4th. With that right at the tail end of that 4-car train battling for the lead in the Jettas.
Yeah, she's probably passed the most cars tonight, I would think, so far. And it looks like that battle for 5th and the Toyotas also disintegrated as we had a bunch of contact, and it looks like Caleb Pocock was the one that went around. So just it seems like we have a lap where it's like kind of chill and not much happens, and then we have a lap where everything happens.
Everything happens. Well, we'll have to see which lap this is, because we only have 2 minutes left on the clock, and these are 2.5-minute lap times. We'll have to track and see where Beans Forster is, but most likely the next time by Beans Forster will be getting the white flag here, and there you go. White flag is in the air. Last lap here at Road America for our touring cars, and there is that battle for second with Miles Crabb, Ethan O-Ring, Nagase Yoshikawa. O-Ring takes a quick look to the inside at turn 1. He's nowhere near close enough to attempt the pass, and drops a wheel on exit. But that is where he's going to stay. But it looks like he gets a good run down the hill. We'll see if he gets a good run out of turn 3, and that might determine whether he or Yoshikawa steps to the inside to drivers to our right to try and outbrake Miles Crabb going into turn 5.
Yeah, and I think it might be a little tough too, because is O-Ring going to be hesitant? These two have already had a couple of situations tonight, a little bit of contact as well. So, I mean, is he going to keep pushing the boundaries? He dives it down into turn 5, and
there's your answer.
He's going to get it.
and you notice where Crabb, after he got the car turned in, actually had to apply a little bit extra brake past the apex to keep from going into the back of Ethan O-Ring. All right, let's jump back over to this battle for the lead in the Jettas in the Touring 4 class, as it is still a 4-car fight as they come down into turn 5 now with Skip Brock Jr., who runs wide coming out of 5, and he comes into contact with Michael Snow, but Snow is our new leader here coming up the hill under turn 6. And then we've got Jim Brewster, who's just quietly been picking off cars all night long. He started in 8th position. That red number 933 machine is now 2nd. And then we've got Megan Overstreet, and I think Skip Brock Jr. might have just checked out of the session here. Let's either that or he's the ghost car. It looks like he's now fallen all the way back through the field.
Yeah, I mean, he's been making a few contacts tonight, so oh man, the battle for seconds heating up. Looks like Miles has got it back from O-Ring, and let's see if he's able to hold it off these last couple corners up the straightaway. It's gonna be tough. I mean, he's got to get through this last corner really well. As we see Beans coming to the line, he has no pressure on him.
Yeah, and he has no problem coming out of the final corner as he heads up the Road America straight. Beans Forster is going to take the checkered flag and win the Touring 3 class. Let's watch this battle for second. Crabb in the 131. O-Ring steps to the inside. Yoshikawa is going to try to draft past both of them. Can he do it when they get to the line? It's Crabb second. It's O-Ring third. And O-Ring first into the wall. And Nagase Yoshikawa finishing just off the podium. Here's the battle for the lead in the Jettas.
We see Michael Snow coming out of the last corner. Oh, he loses control, but he's able to handle it. He's trying to break that draft as much as he can. I don't think they're going to be able to get him It's going to be
And
close,
no,
though.
as they drag up the hill, now Brewster steps out. Can he beat the 77 car to the line? No, he cannot. Taking the win in the Jetta is going to be Michael Snow. Jim Brewster finished second. Overstreet finishes in third with Wan Chi Lin in that gray number 30 machine just off the podium. And, Jack, as I was watching that, Snow, he came out of turn 14 and hooked the left rear wheel. And as opposed to moving to the right to try and break the draft, I think he just moved to the right because, well, that's where the car took him, based on how he exited turn 14. And Brewster followed him across to try and keep the draft. And I think if Brewster had actually just squared up the car on exit of turn 14 and powered up the hill, he would have had the win.
Very possible, but hey, race another day, a nice little podium. Can't be mad at that.
No, definitely not. Well, let's do this. Let's bring in Jim Brewster. He finished second in the Jettas. He's sitting in the green room right now. Let's talk to him.
Jim, how you doing, buddy? Nice
Real
PT
good.
tonight.
Yeah, I did pretty good in those taxi cabs. Usually I'm, in a second pack. But, it was sort of clean. We had a little bit of paint scraping here and there.
Yeah, walk me through that battle that you guys had. You had like an 8-car battle for 3/4 of that race. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was just a matter of, I was just trying to stay clean and stay in touch with the leaders, and, it just sort of works out sometimes,
Yeah, it seemed like you were able to just keep your nose clean and just, quietly work your way up through that pack, and then you got to P2. Did you think you had a shot on that last lap?
See, I had that purple car behind me, and that purple car is really good at taking advantage of any mistakes anybody ahead of it makes. So I was honestly had one eye in my mirror, one eye forward, and pushed real hard. But he was going defensive going into Canada, and I didn't want to go too wide there because I knew that purple car would get us both. So Megan's pretty savvy. So anyway, I'm excited. That's a real good finish for me in these Jettas. I hope it was a good show.
Yeah, no, it was great to watch, and thank you for putting on a show like that. Is there anybody you'd like to thank this week?
Well, thank you guys. You guys do great. My sister, who watches all these races down in Argentina, unfortunately is still in her house, her boyfriend's still in the hospital. She's hoping to get out soon, but she said she snuck out and she's watched a couple on hospital internet. But anyway, she's a big fan of you guys, and we all are. Thanks for everything you guys do, and we'll see you next week.
Alrighty, well, thank you, and we will see you next week, man, and hopefully we'll get to interview you some more, man. You got a lot of charisma. We like that.
Thanks. See ya.
All right, there you go. Jim Brewster taking second tonight in the Jettas. And now let's move over to our overall winner, taking the win tonight in the Touring 3 class in the Toyota GR86s, Beans Forster.
Well, Beans, you kind of stretched it out on everybody tonight. Walk us through your race, because it seemed like you just saw a bunch of pavement in front of you.
Yeah, I was kind of not expecting that. I wasn't expecting to kind of run away the way I did. But I guess my pace was better than I originally thought, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it was a mix of that, and then those two, if you watch back the race, those guys were going crazy for P2, so you have to watch that and see they were making contact and all kinds of stuff, so better be glad you weren't back there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprising, especially if it was so early on in the race, being Road Atlanta or Road America the way it is, and it's such a draft-heavy track.
Yeah, we were surprised for sure. We didn't think you'd get away that quickly, but by lap, I think 3 or 4, you had about a 4-second advantage there. So, I mean, walk us through like kind of what you're thinking when you're out front by that much.
I'm just kind of trying to make sure I don't make mistakes, manage the gap. I'm keeping an eye on it every now and again, just because I need to adjust something if it starts getting lower, which happened a couple times during the race. I relaxed out a little bit and then had to kind of tighten it back up.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for dominating that race tonight. Does anybody you'd like to thank?
I just want to thank you guys, fellow competitors, and Full Send Sims and Team Watson Racing.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and we'll see you in the next race later on tonight.
Good to see you guys.
All right, there you go. Beans Forster taking the win tonight in the Toyotas. And let's move over here and let's do one final interview before we go and take a break. Let's bring in our winner in the Touring 4 class, taking that win in the Jettas. It's Michael Snow.
Michael, that was a crazy race that we had going on there. So walk us through what you were thinking the whole race.
Yeah, I'm just privileged to enough to finally run up in the front with those guys. Not really expecting that race, but I did a lot of practice, and yeah, I mean, it was tight the whole way. Everybody was close to each other. We lost the draft a couple times, but got it back. So, but yeah, it was a pretty intense race for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had, I think, 8 cars within a second there for most of the race. Like, what's your strategy when it's going on? Because, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to pass because you guys are so packed up, but you kind of got to let them make the mistakes, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I think I started P5, P6, somewhere around there. But, yeah, I just kind of hoped that the guys that were really battling hard up front would make some mistakes, and it worked out that way. And I guess just the key thing is don't lose the draft here because you'll never get it back. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and just kind of hung behind the leader there for a while and made my move on the last lap. So it worked out pretty well.
Alrighty, well, sometimes patience does work out on the last lap. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But is there anybody that you'd like to thank this week?
Oh, guys, I don't even know where to start. I mean, you guys for doing the talking, Ray Esports, Fanatec for providing me with good equipment, and my wife for letting me do this evening.
Alrighty, well, thank you, and we'll see you in the race later on tonight in the Spec Racer Ford.
I don't think I'm going to make that one, but good luck to those guys that do.
All right, well, we will see you next time you come race with us, and you have a great night.
Absolutely, you guys too.
All right, there you go. Michael Snow, our winner tonight in the Jettas. And here, Jack, before we take a quick little break here to get set up for our next race for the Spec Racer Fords, wanted to let everybody know that, in real life, some of us are going to be at the Real Life Road America this coming weekend for the 68th running of the WeatherTech SCCA Chicago Region June Sprints, and the Ray Sports Racing League is going to have a little get-together on Saturday night as soon as the track goes cold, sponsored by the great folks at Sims by Racers. And write this down, everybody. We're going to be in Paddock location WP82. No, I don't know where that is either, but I will be there. Stevie Ray from Ray Esports Racing, he will be there as well. He's making the drive all the way from Texas. So come out and join us again. That's Paddock location WP82 after the track goes cold on Saturday night at the June Sprint. So let's take a quick break and thank some of our partners and sponsors that are bringing you all the action here tonight on Apex Racing TV, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
and welcome back to season number 9 of the Esports Racing League here on Apex Racing TV, live from the virtual National Park of Speed, Road America. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Jack Ritchie, and we've got one more race on tap for you tonight, a 20-minute sprint race for Spec Racer Ford. And Jack, we've got our drivers out for qualifying right now, and just about 3 minutes remaining here in qualifying with Giancarlo Schooler, your provisional pole sitter, with a time of 2:29.78, just about 0.2 of a second up on Megan Overstreet, with Beans Forrester third fastest, Josh Justice, Wan Chi Lin, your top 5.
Yeah, it's a pretty close session so far, with Megan only about a 1/10.5 off the pole. I mean, that's pretty fast. I mean, the whole field's within 2 seconds or so, but at a track like this, I mean, this is over a 4-mile track. Takes about 2.5, 2:40 to get around here sometimes. Like, a second, that's not really much. And as much as we've seen these things draft, it could just be like the Jettas that we watched.
Yeah, exactly. And you heard how Mike Snow said, if you lose the draft, you'll never get it back. And what I find interesting here, Jack, in watching these racers during qualifying, now again, we're coming in at, we now have 2 minutes remaining in qualifying. There was about 12 minutes that we didn't see, but you can see how stretched out on track, on this 4-mile track, these racers are. And again, we have about 20 competitors out for qualifying, and you don't see any of them in very close proximity and trying to use the draft in order to decrease their lap times. They're all running, pretty much unencumbered and having to do it just on the strength of their own chassis and not the others.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if that's on purpose, because some of these corners, as we've talked about, are momentum corners, and if you have someone in front of you, is it really worth trying to get that draft off the straightaway if you're able to break deeper or get a better exit?
I guess a lot of that depends on who you partner with and if you know what their capabilities are. Yeah, certainly you don't want to have somebody where you're having to get onto the binders 100 feet earlier than you normally would.
For sure. So I just wonder if that's like part of their thinking here. They don't want to risk it.
No, possibly. All right, real quick, because we've got about a minute left to go in qualifying, and we were just watching Justin Huffman, who put in his fastest lap of the session. That's going to move him up to 10th. Let's take a quick look, Jack, at the standings, not only in Spec Racer Ford, but also in the one class that isn't racing tonight, and that's Spec Miata. We'll start there, where last week at Motosport, Beans Forrester, who we talked to just a few moments ago, he took the win over Morgan Burkhardt. He started 4th, and whereas Burkhardt started on the pole, Forster's margin of victory over Morgan Burkhardt, and this actually sounds like a Road America finish more than a Motorsport finish, 67 thousandths of a second. Giancarlo Schooler finished in 3rd, with Wan Chi Lin finishing just off the podium in 4th. And if we take a look at the points, Lee, if we could jump over to the other class, to the Spec Miatas, the MX-5s, exactly, there we go. Beans Forster, currently your championship leader, and you can see there he's got a 26-point advantage on Morgan Burkhardt, who isn't going to pick up any points tonight, with Megan Overstreet 3rd in the championship at 59, and then only 4 points back from there, Miles Crabb. And now we'll take a look at the Spec Racer Fords, at the class that is out on track, where it sounds like a broken record 2 weeks ago. At Summit Point Raceway, the Spec Racer Fords ran, and Beans Forster took the win. Margin of victory 0.3 of a second off of Josh Soto, with Miles Crabb rounding out the podium there, with Megan Overstreet and Skip Brock Jr. finishing 4th and 5th. And then, even with with Brock's 5th place finish, he sits atop the leaderboard over Josh Soto. Margin now 6 points. Make that 7. I can't do math. 7.71 minus 64 is 7 there. And then Miles Crabb 3rd in the championship with a 1-point advantage over Megan Overstreet. I can't do simple math. I need a calculator for everything. That's why I talk. I don't add numbers or subtract numbers very well. All right, so now as the checkered flag is out on the session, and much like with the touring cars, Nathan O-Ring looking to set a lap time here with the last lap here on the line. He has not been able to put in a clean lap. He's had the 6 laps, 6 incidents in iRacing parlance, and so he needs to run a clean lap here, assuming the session will actually let him complete the lap.
But he got really close to running off right there too. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to get that lap in, so we may see him come from the back, unless he has about another minute, I think.
And so he didn't start from the back, but we had one other driver who did start from the back in the Toyotas, and then we've got Xiao Lu, who also had not managed to set a time in the 053 machine. And we can see here, it looks like wow, looks like O-Ring's having tons and tons of issues with steering, that even on the quasi straight of the Kennel Bottoms, he's been dialing in a lot of correction there. You can see the car dancing around under braking going into Canada corner. And we'll see here. It looks like the session may let him complete the lap. Question is, did he go off track?
At least not since we've been on board with him. I don't think. He had that little slip, and iRacing sometimes a little finicky with those 1Xs. He's coming to the line. We'll see.
All right, as the 62 machine comes up the hill, a couple other drivers not putting in times. Wayne Buttermore, John Nielsen as well. And coming across the stripe, let's see if O-Ring puts in a time. No, he does not. So Ethan O-Ring's last flying lap will not count either. And it looks like Xiao Lu, Ethan O-Ring going to start at the very back of the field, along with John Nielsen and Wayne Buttermore also not putting in lap times here. So we should have, now the session has ended. Our drivers will start to grid up here, and let's take a look at the starting grid.
Already on.
Tell you what, we've got. I was gonna say we've got 20 drivers. Why don't you take the top 10? I'll take the bottom 10, Jack.
All right, if we can, we can get our stuff straight, we'll be all right. Row 1, we got Giancarlo Schooler and Megan Overstreet. Row 2, we have John Vogel and Beans Forrester, our winner from earlier tonight. Row 3, we have Joshua Justice and Miles Crabb. He'll be one to look out for. Starting 7th, we have Hua Chi Lin, and starting 8th, we have Jim Brewster. And in row 5, we have Trenton Kramer and Andrew Rosecroft.
All right, now let's start off with the driver starting in 11th place on the inside of row number 6. It's going to be Justin Huffman in the 223 machine. His son Jameson not here racing with us tonight. Skip Brock Jr. will start in well, I guess that would be 12th position, right? He'll be starting 12th. Corey Heffron will start 13th in the 52 machine with Nagase Yoshikawa. Looks like we've just inverted the Toyota grid, basically. Joaquin Effinger will start 15th in the number 700 machine with Caleb Pocock starting in 16th, driving the 88 car, with our drivers now that were not able to set representative times in qualifying. Xiao Lu will start 17th in the 053 machine with Ethan O-Ring starting 18th. And then John Nielsen and Wayne Buttermore scheduled to round out this 20-car field in row number 10, starting 19th and 20th. And it looks like they have made the grid as our field now on the run around this 4-mile, 14-turn track for their pace lap.
Yeah, I think that last race got us a little tongue-tied for this one.
Yes, it did. Well, you know, I've got about 3 minutes to untie my tongue at this point. Although, well, you've read through this spot, so you know it's not so easy. Let's talk a little bit about the sponsor for tonight's second race here tonight in the Ray Sports Racing League, and that is Spec Racer Sports. And Spec Racer Sports' mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing. And Spec Racer Sports delivers by providing the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price, and all with exceptional customer support. Located trackside at Motosports Ranch Houston, Spec Racer Sports offers exceptionally prepared Spec Racer Fords for rental and for sale, for storage and support, and driver coaching, as well as technical services such as chassis dyno work and fabrication. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services, visit specracersports.com. All right, so the field now making their way. Let's see. Let's try and pick up where they are. They're just coming through turn 5 now here as they are heading up. And you see they're moving back up to the front row, the 111 machine of Giancarlo Schooler. Actually, looks like Giancarlo. Let's see. There he is. He's just, well, he's just driving through the pace car. You remember a couple of weeks ago when I was calling Jacob Schilling's Jetta the ghost car because it had no numbers and it was all white? Well, I think Giancarlo Schooler's 111 is technically the ghost car because it's all white, has no numbers, and just drove through another car.
Yeah, right. We'll have to start calling it the wild card car.
That's right. All right, so we'll definitely have to keep track of the 111 machine there. He is your pole sitter tonight. Here in Spec Racer Ford as the pace car brings the field through that carousel corner. Turn 12, or probably not turn 12, that's turns 9 and 10.
I think you could read that ad about 2 more times before we get to the line here.
And much more slowly too, yes. But I mean, it's great here, Jack, to watch these pace laps. You know, even in the virtual world. And it was a number of years ago that Road America was scanned for the iRacing service, but you can kind of get a feel for why they call this the National Park of Speed. You come down through the kettle bottoms, you've got the trees overhanging the track here in this long run. The trees just kind of, you know, the light and the sun just kind of pokes through every once in a while, and then you come out of Canada Corner, you come out of the trees, and all of a sudden there's this brightness and there's this airiness up through Bill Mitchell Bend. It's just such a gorgeous place, and I'm really looking forward to this coming week when I'll be announcing the June sprints. Because Road America, for those of you that may have just seen the IndyCar races this past weekend, has just been repaved for the first time in many, many years and is made for a very, very fast, much faster than before track as our Spec Racer Fords come up the Road America straight up the hill, looking for the green flag. Giancarlo Schooler in that white machine on your right, Megan Overstreet in the purple 044 to your left, and John Vogel, he's given the push to Giancarlo Schooler as they come down. And now look at this, trying to sneak up the inside. It's at the 231 of Beans Forster, and he's pinned all the way to the inside, trying to come underneath John Vogel, and Vogel goes around, Vogel spins, Vogel now gets into the side of, I believe, Andrew Wozencroft in the 80, and that has opened up a big chasm at the front of the field as Giancarlo Schooler, he manages to lead. We've got another driver, I think that was Skip Brock Jr., who just went off at turn 3. He's going to drop back through the pack, but it is a breakaway here with Giancarlo Schooler and Megan Overstreet pushing just a little bit further behind Beans Forster. He's in the draft. He's starting to close things down, but then you've got Nagase Yoshikawa, Josh Justice trying to come down the inside on Yoshikawa, going into turn number 5, and then side by side beside them, we've got Miles Crabb and Jim Brewster. But what a wild start here, Jack.
Yeah, it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, it looked like Skip Brock threw it in there 3 wide, and all calamity broke loose in turn 1. Oh my goodness, that was a crazy, crazy start to the race. It separated the top 3 from the rest of the pack, too. I mean, these 3 up front, if they just work together through most of this race, I don't think that these guys back here are going to be able to catch them, but we talked about Ethan Overing not being able to put down a lap, but he's already up to P7. He has drove from 18th to 7th in 1 lap. So
well, with all the mayhem that happened in front of him, I'm honestly not that surprised. Now we've got Skip Brock Jr. He's taking his car back to the pits. It looks like John Vogel may have incurred too much damage, and I think he's checked out of the session. So we'll see if he does manage to return, but I think he's out. here as we've got a driver who goes off down the kettle bottoms, and that was, I think that might have been O-ring in the 62 machine that went wide coming out of the kink, gathers the car back up, and now O-ring drops back in the 12th position.
Yeah, it's got to be so hard for these drivers to hop in these things cold, too. They do it every single week, as we talk about, but it's really tough. I mean, you only get 15 minutes of qualifying, and then you're racing. So,
yeah,
third one can be a little wild.
Exactly, and for some of the drivers, when they're in talking to us after the first race, and they're getting interviewed, that's time that they're not behind the wheel trying to qualify for the second race, because the qualifying session is going on simultaneously with those interviews, as now the battle for the lead comes down into turn 1 as we start lap number 2 here, and Schooler manages to hold off Beans Forster, but we've got the 044 there just behind, and then we've got that whole second pack. Wan Chi Lin, Zihao Liu, who has made up 12 positions, started at the back of the pack and is now up to 5th. Nagase Yoshikawa and Josh Justice, whose aggression, I think, in the opening laps is perhaps not treated him so well. Looks like Trenton Kramer and Caleb Pocock getting together, as we saw Trenton Kramer moving all the way over driver's right coming out of turn 3.
And if anybody's going to be able to catch those top 3, it's going to be Wan Chi Lin and his teammate. Those two work together really, really well, as we've already seen them be able to gain, I don't know, about a second or so. And the battle for the lead up here isn't really helping that either. It's getting crazy up here. I think I've seen everyone touch the grass so far.
Yeah, as we saw Forster get loose coming out of 6, and didn't get a great run out of turn 7 into the hurry downs, and Overstreet now sitting right as Overstreet drops a wheel coming out of turn 8, and luckily it rotated the car just enough that it allowed her to set up pretty well for the carousel. But you can see now she lost about 3 car lengths to Forster just coming through turn 8.
Yeah, and if Wan Chi Lin and Yoshikawa and all these guys catch about another second or 2 on Overstreet, they're going to be in her draft, and they're going to be right back up in that lead pack. So it's going to be crucial for her to try to stay with the top 2 as much as possible, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be a thing, because they are coming really, really fast, and there's a big group of them.
Now, we saw Justice get a great run out of the kink, was able to open up about 3 car lengths on Miles Crabb in the 131 machine, whose roll bar was sitting on right now. Now, Justice runs a spec racer Ford in real life. He's based out of Texas, and it was interesting to watch as they came into the kink, because Crabb had actually taken a quick look to the inside of Justice just before they got to the kink, and I'm fairly convinced that it affected the apex speed of the 131 machine, and he just didn't carry a lot of exit speed out of that corner.
Yeah, and as we talked about, that corner is one of the most important to carry the speed out of. As we see Beans diving it in there, and Giancarlo looks like he just let him go for right now. I mean, we have 15 minutes left, and maybe he didn't. Maybe he was just setting him up for the next corner coming up.
Yeah, it looks like he set him up for the over-under as they come down the hill into turn 3. And in the 111 machine, he's got the position, but then runs wide himself, whereas Forster squares things up. And I think probably I think probably the person in the best position is Overstreet, sitting right back behind them. If she could maybe now shoot to the inside and follow the 111 car through, but I think she's going to be content to sit there behind Forster. You know, as short as these 20-minute races are, you know, there's still, I'm doing the math thing again, 14 minutes remaining in this race, lots of time.
Yeah, and if I'm her, I think I would just be, just chilling right there, right? And seeing where they're maybe overdriving the car a little bit. Where can you capitalize on a mistake, or are they going to get side by side and make a mistake? You don't want to be caught up in that either. So I think I like where she's at right now, just riding there in P3. But I mean, there's a couple cars back in 4th and 5th that are making their way up there too, so they're not going to be alone very much longer.
Yeah, as we watch this neat little battle with Wan Chi Lin and Jim Brewster. Actually, Wan Chi Lin's already up in the next group, but there's Jim Brewster, and behind Brewster we've got Nagase Yoshikawa in the purple and black number 98 with Miles Crabb that we were watching before, and then Josh Justice has given up the slot. The last lap through, we were watching Miles Crabb trailing Josh Justice, and now the shoe's on the other foot. As, oh, look at this, as Forster drops a wheel going into braking over at Canada Corner. He's going to lose a lot of exit speed. That's going to be just the little bobble that Giancarlo Schooler wants as they come up the hill to 14, and still Overstreet not making a move, but even as they're getting pulled back here now. Zihao Liu and Wan Shi Lin have managed to draft up to our lead trio, and a lot of it is simply because of all the fighting Forster and Schooler have been doing. And maybe when you see this now, maybe Overstreet should have attempted to get around them earlier.
Yeah, and it looks like Lou's going to pass all of them.
Wow, and can he keep the car on track? No. That's what happens when you carry an extra 20 miles an hour into turn 1 than anybody else. You go off track.
Yeah, that was going to be a iRacing top 10 move of the month, and it kind of became a not top 10 very quickly there. So
yeah, he almost ended up in Milwaukee.
Yeah, but he's not too far back, and I mean, they're still there. So it's still going to be a 5-car battle, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, it only took him 3 laps to get up to our lead trio, and as now Overstreet and Schooler take the point and head down into turn number 5. I mean, that's just going to bring those two, the 053 and the 30 right back. Oh, and we've got cars off at turn 5, and let's see, is that I think that was the 88 of Pocock, and behind Pocock, let's take a look. Let's see, I think Corey Heffron involved as well.
Yeah, and Yoshikawa, that looked like a pretty big incident. It looked like maybe 4 or 5 cars. We still have cars running off the track.
Yeah, as they're trying to get back up, it looks like Corey Heffron was involved. John Vogel, actually Vogel hasn't rejoined. He's still sitting back there. But yeah, again, just some absolute mayhem there. So if we go and reset the field, it is Megan Overstreet with Giancarlo Schooler, then Beans Forster, Wan Shi Lin, and Xiao Liu running 4th and 5th, and they're starting to close things up again just a little bit here. And then in our third pack, it's Jim Brewster with Miles Crabb, who've now separated themselves out from Heffron, Justice, and Kramer, and Justice and Kramer still jockeying for position.
Yeah, it looks like and Liu has had a really rough lap too. He overdrove turn 1, and I think he overdrove turn 6 or 7 there as well, right before the carousel. So, I mean, the fact that he's still only about 2 seconds off the front pack, that's pretty impressive, because he has had a really rough lap.
All right, as we cross the start-finish line and now cross the 10-minute mark, the halfway point of this race, side by side, Giancarlo Schooler and Megan Overstreet, as Schooler drafts by on the front straight, retakes the lead as they come under braking in turn 1. You didn't see Overstreet trying to contest that at all. You know, if they're going to maintain that gap to 4th and 5th positions, they need to stop fighting those passes there. Miles Crabb gets around Jim Brewster now. This is the battle for 6th. And we'll see if they take the same tact and maybe start to work together, try to draft up to Liu and Lin.
Yeah, and Megan goes right back by Giancarlo for the lead here. As Giancarlo probably doesn't want that to happen very long and dives down in turn 5 here. And looks like he's going to be able to clear her, and the old over-under might work, but oh man, Bean's got a massive run. Backing up that corner can really work in your advantage if you do it just right like he did.
Yeah, and Beans was taking a look for a moment to make it 3 wide into turn 5 and kind of thought better of it and just slotted in behind. You know, I think as we're seeing here, after each long straightaway, there is, and we talked about this in the show open, Jack, you know, there's a lot of opportunity to affect passes here. And the challenge is, I think, probably more than anything else, is knowing when to fight them off and when not to fight them off. Because as we've seen, you can have a 15 or 20 car length gap to the next cars behind you, and that can disappear within a lap, as we now see Xiao Lu and Wan Qilin starting to draft back up to the back of our top 3 for the second time tonight.
Yeah, Liu and Lin are coming really fast, and that kind of plays a factor into your strategy of the top 3 as well. It's like, how aggressive is it really worth being right now? I know there's only 8 minutes left, but right now it's a 3-car battle, and you really don't want it to become 5, but that's inevitable, and you don't want it to become even more than that, because Miles Crab is only about 4 seconds back, and he could make that up if it's a 5-car battle up here too. So it's tough. Like, what do you do here? Do you keep battling for the position, or do you kind of stick in here and draft it for the next, lap or two? It's a tough decision for sure.
Well, and I think now as Liu and Lin come onto the Road America straight, they are, I think they're just right at the tail end of the draft of our top 3, and you can see there as Beans Forster moved alongside. What did the 2 drivers back behind do? They took the car that was going to be moving up through the field to try and use his draft versus Overstreet and Schoolers, who were not moving ahead. And as they come out of turn 1 and roll down the hill under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge to turn 3, it is once again a 5-car fight. Beans Forster now takes the advantage, takes the lead as they come out of turn 3 here on lap number 6. And you can already see now Schooler having to get defensive to hold off Xiao Lu as they're 3 wide coming down the Moraine sweep, going down into turn number 5. It's not wide enough at 55 feet for 4 of them, but 3, yeah, you can make it work as they come now down into turn number 5 and start to roll up the hill to the Corvette Bridge.
Yeah, Lou dove it down in there to turn 5, and he picked off about 3 cars, and now he's in P2, and he's right where he wants to be. As long as he doesn't overdrive it again, trying to take the lead, I think he might be the man to beat. His pace just is insane, and the draft that he's getting from these guys too is just, I don't know how he's passing so many cars by himself as he dives it down in there. And oh, they have a really big right-hander coming up here, and I'm not sure if they're going to both be able to make it through okay.
And here, as we mentioned, the track kind of drops away, and you can see the little tapping of the brakes from Xiao Lu as he's stuck on the outside there as the car starts to push, and he manages to hold on right at the exit curbing. But too wide through the kink doesn't always work either. And Giancarlo Schooler, he gives up the position to Xiao Lu going into the kink, but that has now allowed Wan Qilin to get a great run coming down the kettle bottoms into Canada corner. Let's see here as they get hard under the brakes.
And don't look now, we got Miles Crab and Brewster coming too. They've closed that gap down to less than 3 seconds. We're gonna have a 7-car battle here for the lead in the next lap and a half at this pace. Wow, this is insane. It went from 3 cars to 5, and now it's going to be 7 cars battling for this win with less than 5 minutes left.
And look at the dance there as they were coming up Bill Mitchell, and we had Giancarlo Schooler, who was driver's left. He moved over to driver's right. Then we had Wan Qilin, who was driver's right, move over to driver's left. It almost looks like synchronized swimming going on here as we're 2 by 2 by 2, actually 2 by 2 by 1, as we've got Beans Forster and Xiao Lu side by side going into 1. Directly behind them, Giancarlo Schooler. Oh, and running wide is Wan Qilin in the number 30 machine, and he might now fall into the clutches of both Jim Brewster and Miles Crab here as our leaders still, Xiao Lu and Beans Forster, come out of turn 3, and they're going to make the run down the 5.
Yeah, and it could have been the best thing for Brewster and Crab was to have that buffer car right there to be able to draft up. And it looks like that's what's going to happen. As Giancarlo is really aggressive right now, trying to decide what he wants to do. He knows making it 3 wide right here isn't going to work, but he has to do something because these guys are 2 by 2.
Yeah, and I think what he decided to do was try to push Xiao Lu past Beans Forster as Lu gets loose. Coming out of 5, comes right back across the nose of the 231 as Forster runs wide coming out of turn 6. And I think we might have lost temporarily Beans Forster there. Yeah, Beans Forster just went off into the shadow realm. He went off track over at turn 6 and poof, gone.
Oh yeah, he potentially could have DQ'd there. I didn't see him really making too much contact unless they got some of them Phantom 4Xs that iRacing has every now and then. But if that happened, that's a shame because we had a 7-car battle. Now it's down to 6, and Lou is out here with about a second gap, but I'm not really sure how long that's going to hold. Oh, is he
it might not
in the
hold
grass?
long as Zhao Lu goes off into the grass, coming through the kink. He's going to lose a lot of momentum, just as Giancarlo Schooler and Megan Overstreet come through one of the fastest corners on the course. Still only can get within about 5 car lengths as they come through Canada Corner, but they are definitely now within the draft of that 0:53 machine. And, well, there you go. That's how they catch up.
Yeah, and with these, I don't know if we're going to be coming to 1 to go. It's going to be really, really close. I think it is going to be 1 to go, though. So
yeah, let's take a look as they come up the hill. The drivers have been doing a 2.5-minute lap time, and as they come up the Road America straight, coming towards the starter bridge, let's see, do we have the white flag in the air? Yes, there is. Last lap here at Road America. Your leader, Zhao Lu, who are watching the rear-facing camera of Giancarlo Schooler now, having to defend against Wan Lin.
oh man, yeah, he defended him, but there's 2 more long straightaways to defend, and we have a lot more passing opportunities, especially turn 5. It'll be interesting to see if Giancarlo's aggressive there. He has been all night, and we're going to see if he's aggressive in this last lap.
Well, what did we learn last week? Giancarlo Schooler does 2 things, and 2 things only in life. He plays soccer, and he does virtual racing here. And so this might be his time to shine as he moves to driver's right, as we now have the 2 teammates of Wan Lin and Zhao Lu nose to tail coming into turn 5, maybe trying to pinch out the 111 car as they start to head up the hill. Megan Overstreet still content for the time being to sit back in 4th. They've got the smallest of gaps now, also less than a second back to Jim Brewster. Brewster should be in the draft at this point as they come out of turn 7 and make the way down the hurry downs over to turn 8.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because Giancarlo's kind of, he's trying to pass one and then defend against the other. And they're both teammates, and oh my goodness, I wouldn't want to be him.
It's awfully tough for him. This is the point in the race where Giancarlo Schooler would have a Morgan Burkhardt, or he'd have a Jamison Huffman with him, and he doesn't have either. He's all by himself trying to solve this little puzzle as they come into the kink for the last time, and going wide again is Zhao Lu, losing a lot of momentum. Schooler had to avoid, but manages to get around as they come down the Moraine Sweet, or probably the Kettle Bottoms, into Canada Corner. And Schooler not able to clear the 0:53 machine that just seems to have speed everywhere here, but they're coming up Bill Mitchell, and it is Schooler, then Lou, then Lynn, then Megan Overstreet, and Brewster is now in the battle, as is Miles Crabb, as we've got just one final corner, and they're coming through turn 14 and heading up the Road America straight.
Looks like Giancarlo Schooler is going to be able to hold off both of the teammates, and everybody else is, oh, well, maybe not. He's got to run the very last second at the line.
And as they come to the line, Lou tags the wall and taking the win, margin of victory, 1/100th of a second. Giancarlo Schooler, your winner in Spec Racer 4. Zhao Lu will finish in second. Wan Lin will finish in third, 75 thousandths of a second back from Lou. And then Megan Overstreet, she finishes in 4th. Jim Brewster will finish 5th with Miles Crabb 6th. Corey Heffron will finish 7th. Then we've got John Nielsen. He will finish in 8th position. Josh Justice finishing 9th. He was all the way up to 5th on the first lap. Then Andrew Wozencroft will round out the top 10. Wayne Buttermore finishes 11th. Justin Huffman coming to the line will finish 12th. And Joaquin Effinger in the white and red number 700 machine, I believe our last racer on track here, finishing 12th here at Road America.
What a race.
Yeah, that was pretty darn amazing. I mean, we saw as the Jettas were beating and banging in the last race here, a little bit cleaner with the Spec Race Fords, with the exception of that very first lap through turns 1 and turn 3. But some really neat battling, and you can see here, Jack, it does not take much in a car like the Spec Racer Ford. Once you start fighting and jockeying for position here, to have cars and drivers that are 15, 20 car lengths back, that within a half a lap they're right back up there with you. There's really just no time to breathe. And the very short formats, these 20-minute races, make it incredibly difficult in a Spec Racer Ford to escape the rest of the field. All right, so it looks like we've got a couple of racers now here in the green room. Let's do this, Jack. She finished 4th tonight in the 044 machine, but I think probably had a unique perspective on the racing for the win that was unfolding in front of her. Let's talk to Megan Overstreet, driver of the 044 machine.
Megan, you got a nice top 5 tonight. Walk me through your race, because that was pretty insane from what we saw.
It was incredibly frustrating. I had to give up there at the end because I couldn't handle getting another 4X, or I'd have gotten a drive-through.
Yeah, we kind of saw a lot of people running off and making contact and all that. I mean, that was pretty insane. You had a 3-car battle there for the longest time, and then it was 5, then it was 7. Walk me through your thoughts of all that, because it had to be pretty crazy.
Well, I was hoping we would work together so we could have a 3-car breakaway until the last few laps and then battle it out, but we just got way too racy there. Then a couple laps after, I think it was like lap 4 or 5 on the backstretch, Beans was going to pop out from behind Giancarlo, but he nailed me in the left rear. Almost spun me out there. I couldn't believe I caught it.
All right. Well, that was some really exciting racing tonight that you guys put on for us, and we appreciate that. Is there anybody you'd like to thank this week?
Yeah, I thank y'all for doing the broadcast. Y'all do a fantastic job. My parents for watching. Love y'all. And everybody else that tunes in, and along with our sponsors. Without y'all, we wouldn't be able to do this.
Alrighty, well, we appreciate you, and we appreciate that show that you guys put on for us tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep, have a good one.
All right, there you go. Megan Overstreet finishing. Where did she finish? She finished 4th tonight in Spec Racer Ford. And, we had Giancarlo Schooler. He was sitting in the chat. He was all queued up. He was all ready to go, all ready to talk to you. And then turns out he had a soccer game or something. No, he disappeared. And we'll give a couple more seconds, see if one of our other drivers pop in. But otherwise, we're sitting right up at the top of the hour, Jack. And so let's do this. Why don't we start to wrap things up? And if we do get one of the other drivers popping in, maybe we'll bring them on here. But again, great night of racing here from the National Park of Speed, from Road America. There with Giancarlo Schooler, you saw there the margin of victory over Zhao Lu, 8 1/1000ths of a second, with only another 75 thousandths back to Wan Qilin. And this is the type of racing that I see very often at the Real Life Road America, where I'm going to be this coming weekend for the 68th running of the WeatherTech Chicago Region SCCA June Sprints. And I've seen a Spec Racer Ford battle there in real life, and with the margin of victory being 1 1/1000th of a second. So, hopefully we'll see something just as close here this weekend. And we don't normally do this here when we talk on the Ray Esports Racing League, but I'm going to mention you can view all of the action from the June Sprints, one of the biggest club racing events of the year here in the United States, on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/@Sports Car Club of America. We're going to be starting off with qualifying on Friday, and then all the racing action Saturday and Sunday across 8 different races each and every day. You don't want to miss it. And if you are going to be at Road America, Stevie Ray from Ray Esports Racing, he is going to have a get-together for everybody. Come and join us. It's going to take place on Saturday evening right after the track goes cold at Road America. Going to be at Paddock location WP82. Write that down, WP82, and sponsored by the great folks at Sims by Racers and Mike Wagner. So we want to thank them for all that they do. All right, so thanks again to all of our sponsors. I think Megan did a great job. She she told us we should thank all of our sponsors, Common Gear and Paddock Motorsports, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, as well as Spec Racer Sports, bringing you all the action here on Apex Racing TV. And I'm Greg Ginsburg. Thanks so much to Jack Ritchie, and of course, to Lee Thompson behind the scenes at Apex, bringing you all the great views. And Jack, next Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m., right? Is that when we start? 8:30? I besides not being able to do math, apparently I can't do time. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time next Tuesday night. It's going to be the Spec Racer Fords and the return of the Spec Miatas from the home of the United States Formula One Grand Prix, Circuit of the Americas. Please join us. So thank you everybody for watching tonight, and we'll see you next Tuesday evening. Have a great week, everybody.